The angel that strengthened Jesus. The Bible says in 1 Samuel 2 verse 9, "He will guard the feet of his saints, but the wicked shall be silent in darkness, for by strength no man shall prevail." The strength of a man or woman is too small to lead him or her into victory. In fact, your head is too small to lead you in the journey of life. That is the reason we all need divine strength. There are burdens that only God can help us to bear. There are life challenges that only God can see us through. And there are spiritual assignments that only God can help us execute. The arm of flesh will fail us. The best of our strength will lead us nowhere. The strength of God is therefore the prerequisite to achieving success in life and in every spiritual assignment. Luke 22 verse 39 to 44 gives us an account of how Jesus prayed with great agony in the Garden of Gethsemane. It was a heavy hour for him as he felt the pangs of death. He knew that his human strength will not suffice for the task ahead of him. Jesus knew that physical strength cannot accomplish a spiritual task. As a man, he lifted his voice to God and cried out for strength. Verses 41 to 43 says, "And he was withdrawn from them about a stone's cast, and kneeled down and prayed, saying, Father, if thou be willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done. And there appeared an angel unto him from heaven, strengthening him. And being in an agony, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat was as it were great drops of blood falling down to the ground." It was painful that at the time Jesus needed encouragement, the closest disciples to him were not able to watch in prayers with him. Christ was left alone in the agony of death as his disciples were busy sleeping. Sometimes this could be exactly the case with us. The path of destiny could have us walk in loneliness. Everyone around you may suddenly reject you or even feel unconcerned. You may begin to wonder why your loved ones are not bearing burdens with you. It is at this crucial moment of life that we all need divine strength to be exhibited in us. Jesus was overwhelmed by the sorrow of death, and he pleaded if the awful event could be taken away from him. However, he asked that will of God be done. There are some happenings and circumstances in our lives that are musts for us. We may not be able to escape them, even if the experiences are not so pleasant with us. Like Jesus, we may all come to that juncture of life where all we need for the season is the strength of God. For Jesus, he knew what best to do. He prayed to God and he received strength. You can imagine if Jesus had tried to escape the death of the cross, or if he had denied being the Son of God before Pilate. By what other means would we have been saved? Let us recall also that Christ was a human. There was no supernatural grace or ability that took away the pains of his torture. He felt the agony of affliction just as every other person would. Yet he never gave up. Why? While he prayed, an angel appeared to him and strengthened him. Jesus prayed such a prayer that is hardly prayed in our generation. He prayed until the sweats gushing out of his body were as great drops of blood. What a prayer! There are times that God will not take away a particular situation or circumstance. He will only strengthen you to go through them.
2 Corinthians 12:9. But he said to me, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me." Paul speaks about his asthenia, which is translated want of strength, weakness, illness, suffering, calamity, frailty. Where do you find yourself on the spectrum?
God was not wicked to have allowed Jesus to die. It was a divine strategy for the redemption of the entire human race. Today, we are beneficiaries of that sacrifice. It is not every tough time that you go through that God will take away. He could sometimes supply you with strength to go through it, so that at last you are tested and tried. Know this, that if your end is gold, furnace will inevitably be your process. The best of any person will never be showcased if such is not placed on pressures. Howbeit, we need divine strength to overcome challenging times.
Focus on Jesus and not your weakness. John 16:33, King James Version. These things I have spoken unto you, that in me ye might have peace. In the world ye shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. The truth is that we are all limited. No one does not have a limit or a weakness. If we are familiar with comic books, a popular character we call Superman has his weakness. He has many powers. He could lift anything. He cannot be killed with guns and other weapons. He is very powerful, but he cannot go near green kryptonite because it will weaken him. And the truth is that we all have situations that come up in our lives that are our kryptonite. Situations that it doesn't matter how powerful or intelligent one is. There are times when your weakness will come into play. There are times your hands will be tied down and you will not be able to do anything. I mean, you could walk with an S on your chest. Your name could be the Man of Steel. But there are situations and there are seasons in life that just takes all your strength away. There are times when tears will flow from your eyes. There are times you will be beaten down by some challenges. It is not a sin to have weaknesses. It is not a sin for you to not be able to handle some things, but it will be a problem for you if you are putting all your energy into that weakness and focusing on it. The message for you today is that it doesn't matter how great your weakness is. It doesn't matter how much your weakness is affecting you. Jesus is always there to help you through. Focus on Jesus and not your weakness. Jesus knew that human beings have weaknesses. He knew we are all limited to what we can endure, and that is why he told his disciples not to worry. He told them about the peace he could give them, even in their weakness. This is why we need to focus on Jesus. There is something we need to know about weaknesses. Our weakness is very powerful, but you are the only one who has the power to decide if you want it to be powerful or not. When you pay too much attention to your weakness, it means you are feeding it. When you focus on something more powerful than your weakness, then you are taking power away from your weakness. What Jesus will now do for you is that He will give you strength. Are you focusing on your weakness? Are you feeding it or making it bigger than Christ in your heart? Many people worship their weakness, and it keeps consuming them. They say to people that they don't have the power to do a particular thing because of their weakness. If you are like this, you are focusing on your weakness, and you are feeding it. What you should be saying is not, "I can't do it," but you should be saying you can do it. Philippians 4:13, King James Version, "I can do all things through Christ which strengtheneth me." This is what you should be saying. This is what you should let your weakness know about you. Focus on Christ. Stop glorifying your weakness. Who are you trusting now? Who are you making your focal point? Who is at the center of your challenges? Who are you trusting to help you through your weakness? Psalm 20, 7-8. Some trust in chariots, and some in horses, but we will remember the name of the Lord our God. They are brought down and fallen, but we are risen and stand upright. We all know Paul to be an apostle of Christ who preached the gospel relentlessly. We all want to be like Paul. Paul did all he could do not to sin against God. He tried all he could to remain faithful and remain strong, but Paul has his weaknesses too. What did Paul do concerning his weakness? 2 Corinthians 12, 7-8. And lest I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of the revelations, there was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure. For this thing I besought the Lord thrice, that it might depart from me. What did Jesus say to Paul? Verse 9 says, And he said unto me, My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. Paul found grace in the sight of the Lord. He focused on Christ. He was not okay with the thorn in his life, which also could be his weakness. He focused on this thorn at first, and then he stopped focusing on it, and then prayed to Jesus. Jesus made it clear to him that there is something greater than that weakness. There is something that can cancel that weakness, and that is the grace of God. Why are you wasting your time focusing on that same weakness? Why are you troubled because of that weakness? Jesus is telling you today to focus on Him and receive that grace that is greater than your weakness. Paul said that his strength was made perfect in his weakness. This means that not even his weakness can stop him from whatever he wants to do. The Lord is telling you today to stop focusing on that weakness. There will be storms in your life. There will be times you will wish you gave up, but Jesus is telling you not to focus on those things. He wants you to focus on Him who has the power to make things go perfect. If you make Jesus the source of your strength, your weakness will become your strength. Why would you allow the devil to shift your focus from God to your weakness?